This is Mighty Avengers 30. This video is going to have a weird mix of abrasive complaining and abrasive non-complaining. Unlike the last batch of issues of Mighty Avengers, which were mostly by Gage, this one is the most obvious example of there being two people writing this issue. One plot, the continuing story, that is good, and it has some cool bits and ideas, one of which this cover slightly reflects, and I love this cover, by the way. And then the other plot is Unrelated Rubbish by Slott. And it's that which we open with. You might also notice that the artist has suddenly changed mid-story. And that is because Slott has graced us with him actually writing some script this time. He writes this subplot, and he was so late at even writing half a comic that they needed another artist to quickly do it. Slott is not worth it. He's not a good writer. He's not worth the hassle that artists and editors have to put up with. And his plot in this is terrible. It has no real bearing on the ongoing story with the Unspoken, and we're just done with Tom Hiddleston. We're dropping that entire subplot. The Charlotte Witch stuff is more or less done with for the rest of the series. Instead, we have Aunt Gordon randomly gone and talk to eternity, and this is fucking abysmal. To give us some relief, though, we break up the trash with the good. Gage, he seemed to be approaching this book and introducing this concept, like the cover of this issue and the next issue show, that the Avengers featured could be more like the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. Like the Mighty Avengers and their headquarters, they could be the hub point for other Avengers to be called on, and it could be like Avengers Global or whatever. Like here we have the new Avengers from last issue, and now Hawkeye, he has shown up with some more members from Michael Bryan Benson's team. This is great. The strength of this Mighty Avengers book is that it's finally offering proper Avengers stories after years of Benson not really doing Avengers stories in the main Avengers books. It's fantastic to see Hawkeye written by someone else. It's great to see Miss Marbles, Karen Daggers. Oh, and by the way, on the cover, I mentioned this before. They draw Hawkeye, and if you look, they have just drawn him in his hard Hawkeye costume without his shirt on. That is another example of the sort of thing I like. We were not having to put up with the stupid Ninja Hawkeye shit. They had him basically take that costume off last issue so that he could just look a bit more like Hawkeye again. And now we have more of that big Avengers team thing. They gone to get other odd members and allies to gun up against the Unspoken. And we have a comedy scene with Hercules Man trying to get even the Dark Avengers to join forces with them. And obviously they didn't. But I wouldn't have minded seeing this scene gone the other way. So now we have this big gathering of Avengers together. And to stop me from getting too excited, we cut back to Dan Slott's part. I think this is maybe the worst part of his run. But I am sure I will encounter something else later on that makes me regret saying that so definitively. He doesn't seem to grasp that eternity isn't a person, that eternity isn't someone who became eternity. It's not some guy who was transformed into eternity. Eternity is an abstract concept. It doesn't have a personality. If Aunt Gordon went and visited eternity, chances are eternity wouldn't even notice him there. There's also this undercurrent with Dan Slott and Aunt Gordon, and I have discussed it in other videos, but it has really become unpleasant to me. When these came out, I believed that Dan Slott was redeeming and writing up this character, and now it just feels like ugly stuff. And here, eternity punches Aunt Gordon just like Aunt Gordon punched his wife. It's explicitly meant to be an allusion to that. I didn't even want to begin explaining why eternity punching Aunt Gordon is crap. But this scene is just Dan Slott writing up Aunt Gordon some more in the worst way possible. Another character, and in this case a disgustingly misused eternity, is validating Aunt Gordon with bullshit titles because Dan Slott is not a good writer and he is living vicariously through this character. But then we get back to Tibet. The Flash, Radiation Man, and the Avengers team's government contact, they are the only ones who haven't been transformed by the Unspoken's magic unhuman gas. U.S.Agent and what few surviving members of the Chinese superhero team there are, they have been mutated into alpha primates, and they outright say that this process is permanent and uncurable. And next issue, they just, at the last minute, ignore that statement. This plot is a bother though. It's meant to be the main thrust. It is a 5-part story. And even before that, there was some subplot setting it up. We are on to part 4 here. And we have seen barely an issue's worth of this story. I wonder if this would have been better if they balanced it better. Or they did those subplots separately. Because the Charlotte Witch stuff really did take the lead in the last 2 issues, and now it's not at all important to these final 2 parts. You've got all this other stuff that is making this supposed main plot line with the Unspoken seem very slow. But any complaints, they seem to melt away when we have a page of Hawkeye leading this big group of Avengers. This is everything I want from an Avengers book. Let U.S.Agent take over this book and do his Avengers Unlimited thing like this. I want that book. Not Dan Slott writing a man who hit his wife and using it as an excuse to let his own personal issues with the feminoids become the star attraction. Speaking of Dan Slott, this bit up here, Dan Slott says that he wrote this. He was bragging about how great a writer he is because of it. I remember because it was before the issue came out, and he said that he was writing the first encounter between U.S.Agent and Bucky Man, and he sold it well. He said he was the first person to realise that there's something to say with these 2 characters meeting, and it is a confrontation that has some weight to it. Now, Dan Slott, he might have been lying through his teeth about him writing it. It was probably U.S.Agent, because everything else he said about this one panel was also a lie. This isn't a meaningful meeting of the 2 characters. There isn't any character here. There's no gravitas. U.S.Agent attacks and growls at Bucky Man, and Bucky Man says that U.S.Agent is like a Neanderthal. The Unspoken, he quickly dispatches so many of these Avengers. And yeah, this is what you should have focused on. Not the Flash and U.S.Agent standing around watching things. The Unspoken feels more badly written by how all these characters just fall to them. And more of the Avengers are mutated into alpha primates, which, to repeat, is uncurable. Hercules Man and Amadeus Cho, the superior Hulk, they sneak away to try and destroy the Unspoken's mothership thing, and this is good. You can see that U.S.Agent was very purposely trying to give the other team members stuff to do. Flash and U.S.Agent early on, Giant Girl in the Charlotte Witch bits, and now Hercules Man and Amadeus Cho. This is something that is lacking sorely from the issues solely by Dan Slott. But I didn't really want to talk about the eternity stuff, and Hank Gordon being appointed Scientist Supreme, because it's nonsense. It's just as bad as writers having Captain Marbles, the shit one, Smelly Brie Larson's, constantly referred to as the greatest hero and the strongest character in the universe, or whatever. You're my favourite customer. Stuff like that. This is one hell of an annoying issue because it is half good and half shit. It's like it's Neapolitan ice cream, except instead of chocolate, it's shit. And instead of vanilla, it's Avengers Unlimited. Strawberry is probably still strawberry, and that is like the worst part of Neapolitan ice cream. So I've got to give this 7 thumbs up.